In today's demo, I'm going to show you how to set up a lighting situation for yourself for a photo shoot with the Sfumato and the Chiaroscuro lighting styles. Okay, so first I want to quickly remind you what those are before I do my demo. Here we have the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, and this is a really nice example of sfumato, which means smoke. So you can see that the background is not super dark, and there are really smooth transitions between the highlights on her skin and the dark sections on her skin. So look at the hands, for example. It's very, very smooth transition. She almost looks creamy, right? And I'm not talking about the yellow character of this. That's just because it's a really old painting. You know, it became browner over time. What I'm talking about is the gradients, okay? Light to dark gradients in a very smooth, subtle, kind of creamy looking transition. Compare that to chiaroscuro. So in chiaroscuro, this is a lighting situation in which the background is very dark and the figures are very brightly lit. And so some parts of the figures may be going into the background. So you can see this is Caravaggio's Judith slaying Holofernes. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And so Holofernes' body is receding into the background, and so it's completely black. You don't see it. And this is used for very dramatic paintings because it's a dramatic lighting situation. So it makes sense to put those together, right? I will show you in the demo how to set up this lighting situation too. And let's just compare the two of them so you can really see the difference. You will have your homework assignment for the glazing method will be to use a chiaroscuro lighting situation, like on the left, and to make a very dramatic kind of painting. And then the assignment after that, you might want to go back and look at this again. The lighting demo will be to create a sfumato lighting situation, and it will be a different type of glazing method where we start with alla prima, but don't worry about that yet. For this first assignment, you're doing chiaroscuro on the left and the pure glazing method, okay? In the lecture part of this video, we talked about the difference between chiaroscuro and sfumato lighting and what they're used for. So you'll remember that chiaroscuro lighting is used for dramatic situations, okay? So it looks a lot like stage lighting. And so here you have everything you need. You need a light, a dark background, and whatever it is that you're going to be taking the photograph of for your painting. And so I'm going to pick a dramatic scene for this, like a scene from Hamlet. And so I have model here and a skull for that. But you remember that with chiaroscuro lighting, we have really stark contrast between the foreground and the background. So you can see that I've put a dark fabric up in the background. And if you're at home and you don't have a dark fabric, you can just buy some black trash bags, cut them apart and tape those to your wall. That works just as well. And just wait for nighttime to get your room dark if it's impossible to black out your lights, all right? So you can see that the lighting in this scene is not perfect because the fabric behind him is lit, which makes it look lighter than it is. So what I'll do is I will rearrange the light so that it's no longer facing the background at all, but it's still lighting my scene, and that didn't work. So I'll just keep rearranging it until the fabric behind the scene is not lit, but the people still are lit. Okay, so that's a lot better. You can see that it's quite a lot darker in the fabric, but we could probably make it even a little better if we were to pull this out. All right, so now he's not lit enough. So let's move the table a little bit forward. Look, Sean, could you get up? Yeah. So, thanks. So we already had a distance behind the table before, but now we're increasing that distance to allow for a brightly lit foreground and a darkly lit background. So let's move this back even a little bit more. And I'll keep tinkering with that until I have it perfect. And when I come back, I'll have the phone on the tripod so we can pretend like it's the camera that you would be using to shoot. Okay. So now you can see the lighting is really pretty good. The background is quite dark and the foreground is really lit. And we've chosen this scene because it's dramatic. So let's have the model pick up the skull. And if you have someone who is modeling for you, you can direct them a little bit. So I already suggested to Sean that the skull should be turned at an angle so that way one side of it would be quite lit and the other side darker, and that we'd also be able to still see his face. So turn kind of towards the back a little bit more, Sean, with your face. So originally he was sort of sat up like this, and you could see that that's not ideal because the skull's shadow is cast on his nose, and so you can't see him really starkly. So move your head back the way it was. So something like this would be absolutely perfect. And so you could shoot this right here and then go into your phone and crop. I recommended that you buy a tripod for this, and so if you do that, I would prefer if you use a timer, so that way you don't touch your phone to take the photograph, because if you do touch the phone, it will go like that. You can see how my phone just shook. So here we have the perfect setup for chiaroscuro. Now, if we talked about how this is perfect for dramatic scenes, but if you were to put something kind of goofy with this sort of lighting, it makes it all the more funny because of the strange juxtaposition of the lighting and the content. So this is often used for something that would be sort of melodramatic or kind of silly in that regard. So let me give him something else to hold, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So Sean, pretend like this guy's like attacking you and you're scared.
Okay.
All right. So be like, ah!
Okay.
So look terrified. So you can see with this kind of lighting, chiaroscuro lighting, if you use a funny scene, it almost makes it more ridiculous because of the lighting that we read as being something serious, okay? All right, thank you. Now let's set up a different lighting situation for Sfumato. So this project, you're gonna be working with a glazing method, but the next project will be glazing plus alla prima combined, and that's perfect for something with soft lighting. So let's have him face us. And we don't want the lighting to be so stark, so we're going to pull it over here. Now you can see there's really soft transitions between the lights and the darks in his face, but actually we could make it even, the cord of my light isn't long enough. There we go. So now we've got a pretty soft shadows on his face, but also it's still kind of stark lighting. So what I'm gonna do is take a piece of fabric and cover the light with it. There we go. And so you can see now it's really quite soft. And so this is something like the Mona Lisa was painted with a Sfumato lighting situation. And with this, you can have things in the background. It doesn't have to be a stark, dark black in the background like it did with chiaroscuro. And so this is used for something that you don't want to be dramatic and you don't want it to be melodramatic. You just want it to be something more lovely. Okay? If you have any questions, post them on Celtic Online. Thank you, Sean.